Hi, this is Xander from another camera channel. In this video, we're going to be talking about the iFootage Shark Slider Nano 2. There are two available sizes, and this is the long one, also known as the 660 version, which has 40 centimeters of travel distance. And there's also a short version, also known as the 460 version, which has 20 centimeters of travel distance. This is one of the most simplest to use electronic sliders out there. You can attach your camera or your smartphone to this, turn on the slider, set your start point, set an end point, and tell the slider how long you want the duration between those 2 points to be. And you just click start and you're done. It's as simple as that. On other low budget sliders, if I just move this one out the way real quick, if you take a look at this kind of more traditional design electronic slider, if you wanted to change the rotation, so where the camera is pointing, the only way you could really do it is by changing the position of this like central bar, which runs in between like the two rails. What this does is it physically rotates the camera mount in the middle. And to change rotation, what you would need to do is change the angle of this beam, and that would change the way the mount rotates as the slider moves across the bar like this. And it's not very easy to do. It's not very exact. It takes a lot of trial and error, and it was very, very frustrating because you'd spend a lot of time trying to get it right, and then you have to wait for the sliders to go all the way to the end. Is that the right endpoint? No, you have to adjust it, and then this one starts to move. So it was very, very difficult to do. And on top of that, sliders like these, they change the speed based on like a percentage. You wouldn't be given a set duration or a set time. You wouldn't know how long the shot was going to take. It was just really just a guessing game. But this is now a thing of the past because with the Shark Slider Nano 2, if I demonstrate with this one, all you need to do is, if I just give it some power here, you just hold down the power button to turn it on. And then what it will do is a little calibration dance, which we'll see in a second. It's just gonna move the slider to know, so it knows where it is and it knows which way it's facing. And now by default, the slider is locked. So I can't actually physically move this part. So what I need to do, if you watch, I just have to press the power button and the function button very quickly at the same time, like this. And now the white lock icon at the top of the screen has gone from a white lock icon to a yellow unlocked icon. So now what I can do is I can slide this wherever I want it to go. And more importantly, I can now rotate as well where I want the camera to point. So maybe it's a little bit easier if I show you with a camera on top. So let me just attach a camera. So now I have a camera attached. So what I can do is, let's say we'll move it here and rotate it around like that. And this will be my start point. Okay, so on the screen here, if I just give it a little slide here, there's an A button right here. All I need to do is press this A button like that. And now my start point is set. So now what I need to do is just find my end point. So if I move it over here, and then let's say rotate it over to this point here, I can slide over on the screen here to reveal this B point. If I give that a little click, now my B point is set, and that is currently my end point. What's so special about the Shark Slider Nano 2 is that I can set up to 8 different points or keyframes in my little program here, which is not possible with a traditional electronic slider. So for fun, why not let's add a third point. Let's move it over here, and then we'll maybe rotate it around like this so it points at me like this. And if I slide over on the screen again, I now have a C point revealed there. All I need to do is click the C point, and boom, I now have a third keyframe in my program. And this is not possible with other sliders like we showed before, because they have a linear kind of rotation along the travel distance. And it's never like a 360 rotation, and it's never changing the direction of the rotation either. So this is not possible with a traditional electronic slider at all. So in between these points here is a timer. So if I click on there, you can set the duration of the time you want it to travel between those 2 points. And as a default, that's set to 15 seconds. And the maximum we can set it is to 59 minutes and 59 seconds. But we don't have a lot of time to wait around for that. So let's change this one to 10 seconds. And then in between B and C, let's change that one to, let's say, 3 seconds. So I click back here. And now all I need to do is hit this standby button. So I'm going to press that there. And what it will do is it'll bring the camera and the slider back to its start point. And now that button is now changed to a start. If I press the start button, it's going to start our program. So 3, 2, 1, let's go. And here we go. So that's a nice 10-second move from our A point to our B point. And then hopefully a 3-second move to our C point right there. And it's going to go back the other direction because I've got it set to loop. So it's just going to keep doing the same movement over and over again until it runs out of power. And as you can see, this is really impressive. You wouldn't be able to do this with a normal electronic slider at all. It's very, very simple to use. And when I want it to stop, I just hit end on the screen like that. And there we go, it's come to an end. So, speaking of power, the slider accepts NPF batteries and also USB-C PD charging of 65 watts, and that's what I'm using right now. And what's a really cool feature is that if I turn off the slider and I turn it back on again, it will remember the points that we have just input. So I don't have to go through the hassle of resetting up everything, setting up durations or start points and end points and where the camera is facing. This will do it automatically. It remembers whatever you've done last. So I can go over here and hit standby again. It moves back to our A point and then ready to start. Here we go. How amazing is that as a feature? Because every other electronic slider that I've used personally doesn't have that feature. Everything's very manual. It forgets everything. As soon as you lose power, you've lost everything. So this is such a time saver. And if you want repeatable movements and you're moving between different locations, for example, you can set it up once, get that movement perfect, move to another location, and at least the movement on the slider will be exactly the same as what you've done at your previous location. So this is already a better electronic slider than most of the things on the market already. But what would make it even better? DJI gimbal integration. And this is probably the most talked about selling point or feature about this product is that it's a DJI collaboration project. But don't worry if you don't have any of the gimbals listed on the screen here, because like I've already demonstrated, it's already a better electronic slider than most of the other things on the market anyway. But if you do have a DJI gimbal, you're in luck because it's going to unlock so many new features for you, which is going to take this from a great slider to an awesome slider. So to use a DJI gimbal on the Nano 2, you're going to need to use this special adapter plate. And luckily, this is included in the set. So what you need to do is just line up these contact points here with the ones on the slider plate. And then you just slide it in like so and lock it in place. And this will take the place of the battery in your normal gimbal setup. You also have to attach on this little connector cable onto the side of the gimbal, and then this end will magnetically attach to the front of the supplied plate like this. It's then very easy to attach and detach the gimbal from the slider. You can even do it one-handed. Now your gimbal is attached, all you need to do is turn it on like normal, and it's recommended that you turn push pan and push tilt on in your gimbal's menu. After you attach your gimbal, you will then lose the ability to rotate this part of the slider because that functionality will be now taken over by your gimbal. You also gain the ability now to tilt your camera via the gimbal to point in different directions that you want. And now the cool thing is you can just move the slider where you want it to be and physically point your gimbal and point your camera in the direction that you want for all of your keyframe points. And this is really handy for things like product shots where you want to slowly tilt the camera along the details of the object that you're shooting. Here I am testing it with a 70-200 lens, and I've attached a close focus diopter onto the lens to get the focus even closer. And I would say it's a very good result, much more consistent and repeatable rather than hand panning the camera and trying to repeat and get smooth movements. However, you may notice some slight stepping motions or little wobbling now and again, but these can be easily smoothed out by using stabilization in post. So everything I've shown up to now can be done on the screen of the slider, but you can also use the free iFootage MoCo app, which will give you all the functionality of the screen and more. You may find it easier to do some fine-tune adjusting of where the camera is pointing, especially if you're using a gimbal. And in some situations where you may have rigged this in a hard-to-reach location and you can't actually physically access the screen, the app is going to be what you're going to want to use. So let's say, for example, I can just drag the slide over here like this, and I can hit my A point, like there, and then I can slide it over here like this. And the difference between using hand movement and using the app is this is the maximum speed of the app that will move the actual camera. So if you want to move it faster than this, you're going to have to unlock the slider and move it a bit faster yourself. And then I can do the panning here. And if you are using a gimbal, you will have the option to tilt as well as pan. Hit B. And there we go. And now I can set my time here. So we can give it a nice slow time. Let's say 59 seconds. Hit standby. And it moves back to where it wants to start from. And then I can just press start. And it'll give us a nice 1 minute looped movement. The payload capacity of the sliders is also very impressive, with it being able to move 7 kilograms horizontally and 3.5 kilograms vertically, like this, giving you loads of artistic options for creative shots. I think this is a great slider for things like interviews or product shots, which is something I personally do a lot of. But it also has modes for time lapses, stop motion, and macro photography. If you're out and about, you have this really nice carry case which holds everything for you. And for the stuff like time lapses and things, you have a bunch of different trigger cables for lots of different camera brands. Another cool feature that this has, which a lot of traditional sliders do not have, is the delay function, where you can move it to a keyframe point and you can then set a delay timer. So it will move, stop, wait for that duration, and then it will start moving again. And you can set delays for every single keyframe point that you've made, which just opens up more possibilities for creativity. And one mode that I'm excited about is called the multi-target mode. And this is, I think, really good for interviews where maybe you have multiple speakers. What you can do is you basically set your travel range and you can set 4 different targets. So let's say you have a target for each of the speakers in your interview or a talk show, for example. Now what you can do is as the slider is moving around and doing its thing, you can then change which target that it's pointing at without having to stop the slider. It will reset the movement, so it will go back to its start point for the next speaker. However, this is much better than having to stop the slider itself, reposition the endpoint, and then start again. So you don't miss any moments. So this is a really nice solution. However, I think they could take this a little bit of a step further if they manage to work out how to keep the slider moving and allow you to dynamically change the rotation without the sliders pausing or stopping for a moment. That would be even better and take this slider to the next level. So this was an introduction to the iFootage Shark Slider Nano 2. If you're interested in picking one of these up, you can head over to CLMEDIA's website, which the link will be down in the description, where you can find this and many other awesome products. Or if you want to try this out for yourself, you can visit CLMEDIA's store in person and test it out in their showroom. All the links and information will be in the description box below. Thanks for watching this video, and please remember to like and subscribe to CLMEDIA's YouTube channel.